Well, my wife had been begging me for months, maybe even years at that point. She said, you got to do it. You can't miss out on this. I said, no, babe, I don't think that I can. She said, no, you have to. I said, I don't think that I can. She said, yes, you are. And I said, you're right. That's right. I am going to do this. And that is how I found myself paddleboarding in lion-infested waters. I'll tell you the story. We're in San Diego at the time, and I've told Casey that I'm deeply afraid of water, and I'm deeply afraid of what's in the water that I can't see underneath. And she has forced me to step out into a world that I'm uncomfortable for. This just kind of describes to you the sort of person that I am married to right now. Don't be fooled by her smile and her blonde hair. None of those things matter. She was forcing me to do something I was uncomfortable with. So I'm out there on the paddleboard. It's my first time. I'm so nervous. I'm so scared. And I'm just kind of paddling around just really, really slowly. I'm on my knees because some people are stand-up paddleboarders. Some people are knee-down paddleboarders. I'm definitely a knee-down person because when I stood up, I almost fell into the water, and I'm afraid of the water. So I'm on my knees, and you know what? I realized maybe this isn't so bad. I started looking around, and San Diego's beautiful. There's boats all around us, and it's just a beautiful setting. I see my wife, and she's beautiful, and man, I'm just beginning to soak it all in. I'm getting a little bit confident, just moving around that bay area on my paddleboard, and that's when it happened. The thing that I had been worried about all along, see up in front of me, maybe 15 feet ahead, I started to see these bubbles. And I'm immediately concerned of the bubbles, and so I start to steer clear of the bubbles. The problem is that I'm not very good on a paddleboard, and me steering clear of the puddle and the bubbles coming up actually brought me closer and closer and closer to them. I'm now 10 feet away, and the bubbles are getting bigger, and so I'm starting to panic, and I'm trying to get away from these bubbles, but I'm just getting closer, and now they're 5 feet, and they're bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden I find myself standing right over the bubbles, and I'm looking down, and there's a dark mass in the water coming up, emerging right at me, about to knock me off my board, and I laid flat onto the board on my chest so I wouldn't fall over, and that's when it happened. I saw face to face a lion, a sea lion, in my face. And some of you guys may be thinking in your mind of a seal. And just so you know, a sea lion and a seal are two completely different things. Seals are cute and fun and cuddly, and they're in zoos. Sea lions are named a lion of the sea, and I'm staring face to face with these bright, white, shiny teeth that are about to eat me, and I lost it. My paddle goes somewhere, all of my water bottles, my life jacket is all going somewhere, and I'm staring face to face with death right in front of me. And I'm like, this is how it ends. And so I do everything that I can to get away from this sea lion. But I'm so nervous to put my hands in the water because that's how it's going to get me. So I put like a couple fingers in the water and I start paddling to get away from it. And if you know anything about the mechanics of a paddleboard, obviously I didn't at the time. If you put one hand in the water, you actually just do a circle. So I circle all the way around and I'm back face to face with the sea lion. It goes, ah! And so I paddle to try to get away. And the sea lion, ah! 3 times I go in a circle and the sea lion is screaming right here in my face. And that's when I felt it on that third turn. In the middle of my back was the wet hand of the sea lion. And I said, this is it. Take me, Lord. And then the second thing that I thought was, Casey's going to pay for this. This is all her fault. She made this happen. Have you guys ever noticed that some of the best decisions and almost always the worst decisions in life are because of the people around you? Is that just me, or have you noticed that? Maybe it wasn't like the decision to paddleboard in lion-infested waters. Maybe for you it's the decision on what class to take, whether or not to jump off that bridge, what movie to watch. I'm still scared from some of the movies that my friends made me watch in high school. You guys are the worst if you're watching this. Maybe it was just a friend's advice that helped you decide to do or not do something. There's something about the friends and the people around you that determine your life. In fact, in my church, we have a saying, and the saying is that your friends determine your future. And the scriptures are actually obsessed with this idea that the friends that you put around you, the people around you in your life, determine the future that you're going to experience. Proverbs 12:26 says, the righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked lead them astray. 1 Corinthians 15:33, don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Ecclesiastes 4:9, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. Proverbs 13, walk with the wise and become wise. Proverbs 18:24, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. The scriptures are consumed with this idea that your friends determine your future. And the people you surround yourself with matter. And here's why. Is because God uses the people around you in your life to speak to you. In our culture, we absolutely love individualism. We love expressing ourselves with fancy things, with watches. We love having our individual profiles on social media. We're in a world and in a culture that's consumed with self. But God actually didn't create us that way. If you go all the way back to the beginning, you have Adam and Eve, and Adam is there by himself at the very beginning, and God created him. And God immediately says, oh man, this is not good. It's not good for man to be alone. And he brings a companion to walk through life with Adam so that he's not alone. And here's what I found in life is that it's not all puppies and rainbows and happy things. Life throws hard things at us. And I've walked through hard things alone. I've walked through hard things with a community of people around me. And I'll just tell you, there's a big difference between the two. Hebrews 10 talks about moments like this. And here's what the writer says. It says, let us consider how we can spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together. There's a reason why we have church every single week, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. God wants to use the people around you to speak life over you, speak hope over you, to put you down the direction that he has for you. And can I tell you how powerful it is to have someone come alongside you in a moment of need? For me, that was when I was being attacked by a sea lion. See, the hand was on the middle of my back. I knew this was the end. This was my demise. And I looked over and I saw the bright, shiny teeth bearing down on me, about to eat me. And I'm still feeling so frustrated and angry at Casey. And I looked back at the teeth and looked back at my life. And all the memories are running through my mind. I looked back at the teeth and I noticed that instead of this brown mass, there's like some blonde hair connected to the sea lion. I'm like, how did he get a wig? And in the confusion, I realized, oh, it's not the sea lion, it's my wife. And she's come over and she has her hand on the middle of my back. And she told me these words. She said, hey, it's going to be okay. I got you. And then she laughed at me a little bit too. I don't know what you're walking through. I don't know what you've been through this week, this month, this year. I don't know what your life looks like. I do know this, that you need someone to come alongside you, put their hand on your back that's going to tell you it's going to be all right. It's going to tell you I've got you. That's going to show up for you in those hard moments. It's going to celebrate with you in those good moments. It's going to encourage you when you feel like you have no courage left. It's going to remind you of God's plan for your life. God wants to use the community around you to speak into your life. And for me, that moment happened when I was 16 years old. My mom and dad, they sat me down. And they said, man, we're just splitting apart. This isn't working. And my mom moved out. My whole life came crumbling down. All the plans I had for my future started to fall apart. I lost everything in that moment. My family, my faith, my hope. I was absolutely lost. And I remember going and doing the only thing that made sense as a high schooler, which was just to sit down and play video games. As I'm sitting down playing video games, the doorbell rang. I went over and I opened the door, and there's this just super old lady. And she's standing there with a casserole dish, and I thought, this is really weird. And she's super old, and she hands me the casserole dish into my hands, and she said, hey, we're from your church around the corner. We heard what was going on with your family. We want you to know we love you, we care for you, and you always have a place here with us. And she handed me the casserole dish. I threw it in the fridge, and I said, wow, that was super weird, and went back to playing video games. The next day, the doorbell rang while I was again playing video games. I opened the door, and sure enough, it was a new old lady. This one had been older than the first one, and sure enough, she had another casserole dish, and she shoved the casserole dish into my hands, and I took it, and I said, oh, this is weird. And she said almost the exact same thing. She said, hey, we're from your church around the corner. We want you to know we love you, we care about you, and you always have a place here with us. She put the casserole dish in my hands. I put it in the fridge. And I said, wow, that was super weird. And went back to playing video games. The next day, another old lady, definitely older than either of the first two, another casserole dish, once again saying the same thing. We're from your church around the corner. We love you. You always have a place here with us. Here's the worst part. I hate casseroles, hate them with a passion. And my fridge is now full of them. Even more importantly, in a moment when I needed it the most, my heart was filled. Was filled with hope, was filled with love, was filled with the community of God, reminding me that God still had a plan for my life. If you start fast forwarding through my life, is the same church that adopted me into their family, is the same church that said, we feel like God has a calling on your life towards ministry, is the same church that eventually paid for me to go to seminary out of their own pockets, is the same church that ordained me as a minister. God's people showed up in an incredible way in my life, and I knew God's plan for my life because of God's people in my life. So here's my challenge to you. Who is it in your life that's speaking life over you? Who is it that's putting a hand on your back? Who is it that's encouraging you and lifting you up in those moments when you just need a little bit of extra courage? I want to challenge you right now. Find that person, find that group, find that church, find the people of God to lift you up so that you can hear God's voice through their words. I can't wait to see you next week. Love you more than you know.
I hope you enjoyed this session. We'd love for the conversation to continue. Please take some time to discuss these questions in your group, and don't forget to pick up the book, God's Plan for You.